some narratives like unified user interface where you should not care about the blockchain where you're on. You should just care that you have your assets and you have the ownership about the assets, and you work with this, and you use different projects like lending protocols, Aave, for example, or you swap through different nice projects what we have out there. For example, CowSwap came also with a nice approach for intent-based swaps and intent-based architecture and approach itself. Also became in the last days also more popular. So we became, from my point of view, much more efficient. Also through this, I would say, this nice hype wave of DeFi summer, and we got more innovations because of these highlights, I would say, in our industry.
Absolutely. Okay.
I think we would probably stop calling DeFi summer and just call DeFi all season, because I think it's here to stay. One of the predictions that we sent out recently is to say that we predict that the DEX volume could probably flip, or at least on par with the centralized volume at some point this year, if not probably by the end of the year. I would probably point out, besides what Sergej already pointed out, I'll probably point out 3 points that I think quite interesting that we've seen. The first one is the collaboration between all the different DeFi projects that at the level that we haven't seen before. I would say that probably in 2021, 2022, there's a lot of projects that built out on a different chain, and you can see different islands, and these are like little different people that are working on different islands. But now you see the point programs, and then also the collaboration between all the different applications. For example, everyone wanna collaborate with Ethena, for example, is a stable coin that driving the adoptions of the other protocol. Pando also really a great example of driving a lot of that as well. The second one I would want to also emphasize is that the regulatory environment had changed a lot. It kind of very volatile, right? In 2020, 21, we didn't have this kind of like FTX, we didn't have this kind of like of Luna, of 3AC, but now we're changing into a new era where all of those legacy, all of the fraud have now been resolved, and those capital that is going to be sent out is going to be recycled back into the space. And then the third one that I think is interesting is the comeback of fair launch and also the introduction of the mass. I know the topic of meme coins probably come up at some point. The only stat I like, and I have to see where I'm fitting into this, is that 90% of the people that trading on the coins that on pumped up fund have lost money or make $100. But it's a pretty important stat. It's a pretty entertaining space, and it also like Shiba, Doge, now Trump, and Melina Coin and others have become like household name. We got people actually talking about us in different light. But it's the first thing that get people in this space. The first simple thing will be a swap. It's our job to then, and all the builder of this space, is to activate those users to become, the holders to become user of the space. The fair launch also, I think, gonna be an important part. For example, ICO Allegiance gonna introduce actual users because people want to be useful to the protocol that they have, some ownership in. So that's the point I'm thinking.
Perfect. So, during crypto winter, needless to say, a lot of good stuff was happening behind the scenes, specifically within traditional finance. Over the last 3 or 4 days, I think I've listened to, I don't think Anthony Scaramucci is here today, but he's been on 3 panels in which I ended up sitting in, and he ended up polling the audience as it relates specifically to the Trump coin and the Melania coin, and the feedback from all 3 groups were very, very negative. So he asked the question whether, as it relates to both tokens, whether it was positive or negative for the industry. Anywhere between 90 to 95% of the polling was negative. So my point is a simple one, which is during crypto winter, when you didn't have the performance of the token and Bitcoin, there was a lot of hard work being done by JP Morgan and Citi and Fidelity Investments, regulators around the world, in addition to politicians. And what we really care about are the ordinary use cases today it still costs $35 to $45 to do a international wire, in which you might get it at the end of the day, or a domestic wire, which is roughly around $25, or an ACH, which is between 1 to 3 days. But if you look at Ripple, cross-border payments, other payment providers, and putting aside PayPal and Venmo, that's completely different because they're using the same payment rails. That's significant to get those wire fees down to the normal, just the regular person. And then, trade finance. Trucking is big in the United States, long-haul trucking, 18-wheelers. They don't get paid anywhere between 30 to maybe 120 days. So they have to factor those trade receivables. And that's at a discount anywhere between 5 to 10%. They don't make that much. But if you're able to put the trade receipts or accounts receivable on trade, on blockchain, you're able to get those dollars immediately. So my point being, it's those types of use cases that are really going to push our industry forward, both with regulators, traditional finance folks, and more importantly, politicians.
Yeah, definitely agree. So before I joined WAGMI last year, I spent 10 years at Goldman Sachs, New York and Hong Kong. So cover a lot of institutional clients. So when we have a DeFi summer in 2020, it's really just for Web3 people. The institutional kind of get curious, but not interested in participating. So fast forward 4 years now, I think smart money, major institutions, government are very interested in getting involved in the space. I mean, the topics of the panel is about sustainable crypto. For our space to be sustainable, Web2 smart money institutions have to get involved. And they care about only 3 things: security, liquidity, and utility. Right? I think in terms of innovations and all, we have come a long way over the past 4 years in terms of all 3 aspects. So I think they're not really looking for fancy or very high yield. They're more interested in, does it work? Can it be done easily? How do we bridge between the Web2 TradFi into the Web3? I think that's what we should be focusing on, hopefully in 2025, to have the whole addressable market to be much larger.
Great. A lot of great insights. We already have a full panel on institutional adoption, and Quynh and other panelists couldn't resist the temptation to talk about meme coins and Trump, so on and so forth. Let's leave that till later. Let's dwell on the crypto native ecosystem, shall we? What do you think? Let's go down by the ranking, right? The Bitcoin, Ethereum, Solana, probably a little bit of Tong. What are we seeing them doing? All these ecosystems, and how that gonna, how much of those involvement or lack of involvement that affects the the sustainable crypto growth as we see it. Whether that somewhat linked to DeFi or not, would be good to get your insight. Let's just start with Sergej, please.
Okay, regarding Bitcoin, Bitcoin is store of value. Actually, from the technological perspective, almost nothing happens right now on Bitcoin itself. But on top of Bitcoin, people start building a lot of crazy things, like runes. It's really interesting to see that people try to build DeFi on top of Bitcoin. So somehow it works. I have people who are really raising money. I know. I have some friends who are raising money for really building on Bitcoin. I don't understand why, but it's okay. We are also from our side working closely on a solution with Bitcoin itself, with Bitcoin script. We are building cross-chain swaps, so you can easily swap from any supported network and from any token, shit token or meme coin to Bitcoin and back. So, and it works. The technology is already since 2013. The hash time lock contracts, for example. It's what we are using also for cross-chain swaps from our side. So I hope we can onboard through this more Bitcoin maximalists, people who are really only in Bitcoin and don't see anything else. In terms of Solana, we have fast transactions, we have a lot of volume, we have seen Trump pump days. But what I see is also outages of Solana, and it's really, yeah, you need to ask yourself, is it really a blockchain if it can have outages? So in terms of the open network, it was nice to see how it will work. Pavel Durov started to integrate the open network into Telegram. And actually, I personally didn't see a huge hype on this. Yeah, people didn't really flipped out and started to use it and started to drive a huge amount of volume into it. It's there. There are less developer, but there are some people who are building on top. And we also, of course, working with a team who is contributing to OneEdge network to build the Fusion Plus cross-chain smart contracts on Ton, so we can also support Ton very soon, so you can easily jump in and out. Same with Solana. But I was missing really this hype, like this huge bull run with huge volumes, because Telegram, they have a huge amount of people who are using Telegram, but somehow I miss the hype here. So yeah, other blockchains, also Sui, for example, blockchain had good, nice hype with huge volumes, trades, and so on and so on. It was also interesting to see that we have always something going on. Yeah, so.
So Sergej, you conveniently missed out Ethereum. So what do you think of that? And the layer 2s and all that.
So Ethereum, if you're following the drama right now on X.com with the Ethereum Foundation and Vitalik writing posts about that, and some other people leaving Ethereum Foundation, and Konstantin Lomachuk from P2P and Lido are opening a second foundation for Ethereum. It's interesting to see, and sometimes you need drama, in this space to move forward. Interesting also to see how it will end. I like also the incentives, like also approaches to let's create competition environment. Let's create a second foundation. Let's everyone from the DeFi and Web3 space to donate into the foundation, and let's see what's happening. Then we have someone who competes between each other, and competition is great for the end customer. In terms of technology, Ethereum, of course, we have always improvement of the blockchain and the environment. We have a lot of tools nowadays, a lot of developers. I also with Anton, we were Ethereum developers from the beginning when we started to participate in the hackathons on the Ethereum Global. These are friends of Vitalik who started to do the hackathons around the globe. And actually, these hackathons opened the world for me. So I understood this world where I was living in Stuttgart, in German city, where people built cars, and innovate that with the Ford tech motor. It opened for me like the whole new world that it's actually much bigger in the crypto space as well in terms of as a being developer. So I like the speed of development of the Ethereum blockchain. And if you compare Ethereum blockchain with other blockchains like Near or Ton and Solana, especially Solana, as a developer, you get the feeling, if you look at really how it works under the hood in the blockchain, you get the feeling that these people who started to build alternative to Ethereum blockchain, they didn't take time to understand how Ethereum works. And they did own things. Actually, they did mistakes from our point of view in terms of design architecture in their own blockchain, because they actually didn't took time to understand how it works in Ethereum, and it works very well. So from developer perspective, from our point of view, Ethereum is the best environment where you can really build really nice, stable applications.
Yeah, I just want to say the kind of enthusiasm and deep thought that Sergej just expressed is the very foundation of the sustainable growth of crypto. Let's give Sergej some applause here.
Thanks.
Yeah, I mean, Sergey definitely have brought up all the very good points. I'm thinking which point I bring, but one of the things that I think quite interesting in the Ton and other ecosystem that I've seen is that the emphasis on the distribution. There's the questions about, you used to think there's a fat protocol where foundational infrastructure is gonna own everything and it's going to power everything, which is true. You need a performance chain, like you said. If you have a chain, it is outage. It's actually very inconvenient for everyone. I think very large scale meme coin trading is gonna be the ultimate test of performance chain in the future. I think other chains haven't really experienced that hype yet to say which one is better, just in that regard. I think on the Ethereum side, I really think highly of the ERC 4337 upgrade and the Paymaster that actually allow you to sponsor gas. I think that's going to have a really good implication for wallet as well as your consumer application in the future. On the distribution point, I start seeing the chain, like for example, you see Unichain and you see Abstract, another coming point. I think this is going to be a really unique IP that going forward for all the chain. It is the chain come first, or is it the distribution come first? Once you get to a critical mass, like Uniswap has, or I don't know, one have the same plan, you'll be able to attract people and capture people in that closed loop ecosystem where you can build other application on top. And so I'm very interested in see, and I think this is probably where the future is going, where you're going to see more of these top applications, like for example, Ethena already have their own Ethena chain, right? Uniswap have their own chain. Abstract is building their own chain for consumer-focused applications. So that is the area where I'm super interested about. I also believe in the future they're kind of a super app or a super quasi super app, like the same at WeChat that we've seen in China, or what WhatsApp want to be, what Meta want Facebook to be. And then you start seeing that Line, for example, in Korea yesterday announced that something similar to what Ton had. I think the announcement 2 days ago where the open network is going to be used exclusively in the Telegram ecosystem is very, I think it's very positive news that not yet taken into account yet, because they have gone into like 950 million. That is a lot of people who already kind of crypto native and really want to use something useful. Right now, I would say a lot of things on Ton is still mini apps that do with game and a lot of farming. But I'm looking forward to a future where it could be able to use for DeFi application, trading application, or a gateway for us to connect with other chain that can do something more useful. Like for example, real world asset trading, you can do bond and stock trading on it as well. So it's not happening yet because they need to fix a few fundamental things, but I think it's gonna happen at some point.
So once again, I'm going to focus on real-world use cases, so a shout-out to Solana. So Solana had partnered with the UN specifically around remittance payments to refugees, or payments to refugees. So if you've been following that over the last several years, typically the UN will send dollars to an NGO or to a government, and there's intermediaries during that process, or theft, or money laundering. And so through Solana in the UN, they're able to get these remittance payments or these refugee payments directly to the refugees on their phones. So if you ever have seen or been to a refugee camp, typically they have a building or a tent just for charging phones. So they have the ability to get that payment on their phone, number one. Number two, whatever the need is, they might need to process an application and pay for it. They might need housing. They might need food. So it's really in the hands of that refugee as it relates to deciding where that payment or where those monies should go. On a personal note, I'll keep the story short. My brother and I are sending remittance payments to Afghanistan, to Kabul. There's a little bit of anti-establishment in us, U.S. military, believe it or not, and the mere fact that we have to go through MoneyGram and Western Union, and they're skimming 5 to 10% off the top before someone at the end can get that payment, just makes me extremely mad. So once again, with Solana, kudos to them. that's a great example or a really good use case when you're talking to politicians or regulators. And I used that use case with Senator Warren's office in Massachusetts. There's probably a lot of, I don't hear any boos, and that's a good thing. But her staff did perk up when I used that and some other use cases behind a typical crypto company walking in and saying, we're a technology platform, and oh, by the way, we don't KYC, KYB, we have no BSA, AML policies, and that's when they basically push them up the door.
Yeah, the only thing I would add, in terms of if you ask traditional institutional investors, which chain would they be most interested either in investing or be involved with? Hands down, Bitcoin. In terms of the proportion. You go to Solana, the rest of it, they're kind of familiar, but they're not really interested. And I think in the mind of the traditional finance world, Bitcoin still has very high regard versus the rest.
I think Bill just touched upon this, about this little bit about ideology of decentralization. I think that's why I think most of the people in this room have been drawn to blockchain, to Web3, crypto, all that. So we focused on DeFi today, but I also want to ask my panelists about all these decentralized world and how the world has evolved, since you exposed to this. With that, I mean, probably decentralized autonomous organization like DAO, for decentralized scientific research, DeSci, right? And for meme, I know you guys cannot resist it. A fair launch, right? Decentralized liquidity pool. Nowadays, we talk about decentralized AI agent marketplace. Pick one or two, decentralized stuff you want to, share with the audience and probably enlighten us about your view, where we are, how you see this going forward, how blockchain can enable this, beyond the financial world. Probably we start with Eric this time.
I'm still a bit confused or skeptical about decentralization, in the blockchain world. I mean, are we really decentralized in terms of access? Yeah, probably, right? A lot of things that we don't have, we have now, but it's more innovation than decentralization. But if you think about in terms of ownership, starting with Bitcoins to Ethereum, it's definitely not decentralized, right? It's that 95% owned by 2% of the people, right? And they may not have decision power, but in terms of ownership, they have. In terms of trading volume on the SAX or DEX, it's just this 80-20 rule, right? I think still 80% on the top 20%. So it kind of mirrors the human behavior society that is still being concentrated, either the best or the richest few versus being totally decentralized affair. So I'm studying on this topic. So, I haven't come to the conclusion that the whole adoption has got up a lot more decentralization. I think you have more access, yes, especially in third world countries and all. But this is not exactly just decentralization.
So I'm in total agreement. So our focus at Polymesh is to continue to build our ecosystem. I think from a DeFi standpoint, as it relates to real world assets, in our particular case, real estate, we would have an interest in liquidity pools specifically around lending, right? So most of these real world assets it's hard collateral, something that you can hold on to. And so there is the ability to lend against those assets. But quite frankly, we made a decision to kind of push DeFi off probably to the first quarter of 2026 until you get the ability of being able to custody, transfer, settle, buy, sell on a blockchain. So really need to perfect that first. There was a great panel talking about this in which 1inch was on at the GBBC event. And of course, DEX in general need to, needless to say, upgrade as it relates to compliance. So I think we're kind of ways away a little bit.
I agree that we are very early in decentralization, but I also question what it means. So I've probably, if anyone watched South Park, there's one episode where they want to dismantle the government, and then they run the entire thing like decentralized. And then later on, the same people become the government without naming them government. I felt like that's what happened. I think we still need some sort of centralization to make decisions, especially in the early day where things are still, difficult. So I would say they are pioneer, they are leader in this space, and then over time we'll get to that decentralization point. The areas I found that decentralization is helpful, two things. The first one is decentralized science. So one example I came across recently that I found pretty funny and actually really genius is hair DAO. It's a DAO that actually decentralized the research of hair losses. So funny enough, it's actually one of the biggest problems the world have. Look around, people stress, they lose hair, right? But the last research done in it is 35 years. And so now they basically, what I think decentralized science really mean is that give people a way to fund these research, either underfunded research or closed-door research, and then open that data for other people to criticize, to then build on and verify. So then, why HairDAO is interesting is because the user on the other side of these products actually have the power to buy them. These are the people who actually work so hard, they lost hair, or have other purposes, condition. But actually, this is actually one of the areas where I think is pretty interesting, and I see that there'll be more and more of these research, not hair specifically, but health type will come up. Another one is I spent 10 years trying to raise money for company from investment bank. I know how hard it is. Just looking at the money that actually being raised from Legions, from Echo, from Pumped Up Fund, from a lot of the projects right now on the DAO mechanism, I just feel this is revolutionary. You basically just allowing people to, use token. Anyone can launch it. Anyone can actually launch a project. And actually, yes, like any venture return, you're going to launch a project and then, maybe 1%, maybe 10% of them will become some sort of successful. But that's just the rate of what it is in this space. So decentralized funding via token is actually, I think, going to be helpful and going to stay forever in this space.
So from my point of view, decentralization is not necessarily everywhere. Yeah. So it works very well with decentralized finances. Yeah. So we have our liquidity pools, money markets. They are right now permissionless. Maybe they will become soon permission because of the regulation. We will see. In terms of other topics, DAO, decentralized autonomous organization, is a cool experiment to see how it can work. Yeah. So right now, for example, in Germany, we need to elect our government once again because they didn't make it. So, and this actually, for me as a German person, resident, it's not transparent. Yeah. Someone cheat maybe, like what's happening also in other countries, and fake votes, or my vote became something different, not what I wanted. I have zero transparency, and here blockchain can help in terms of also of decentralization and transparency. Yeah, so I'm not sure that every country would like to integrate something like this. So. But I hope some of them will start maybe in the next 10 years. It's a good tool, and it helps to have more safety for the people. In terms of finance and decentralization, I agree with the ownership. It's very important, to have ownership, and ownership you can implement through decentralization. Yeah? So no one can really decide by their own to take everything from you because they don't like you. Yeah, because you're not beautiful person or something. Or not lovely person because you want to claim your rights or something. Yeah. So and this here decentralization makes sense, but in other things like, I don't know, AI agents, it makes no sense from our point of view. But you can integrate in AI agent something what use the decentralization, for example, payment channels. Yeah? AI agent need to pay for airplane tickets, so or AI agent need to buy, I don't know, cinema tickets or whatever what needs to be paid, or Netflix subscription need to be paid. It can be easily integrated by using our already existing technology in decentralized finance space, payments, and they are more transparent, more efficient. You have all one complexity, so it doesn't matter how many subscriptions you have. It works in the same complexity, low, small complexity, and this innovation will come soon, I think, as well here to improve. But in other topics, like people misuse blockchain for like as a database. Yeah, it's what I have seen also at Porsche. They try to misuse some blockchain approaches to store some data. Makes no sense, but yeah, to provide more transparency, more ownership over assets, and also non-custody approach. What is very important, what we drive from 1inch, our value proposition is non-custody for everything what we are building. For swaps, you don't have to deposit and withdraw. You just do interaction directly from your wallet with a smart contract, and not intermediates, and not with people who are sometimes became greedy and gamble with your funds. Happened with FTX. Happens. It's like based on Amorphous law. If something can go wrong, it will go wrong, and we try, change it. And also OKX also driving this wave with us together. We are really happy to have partners on board who are, did already something huge from our point of view for crypto industry, and also adapting the new wave of technology. And you're doing really well. We are really happy to have you as a partner.
Thank you for that. We are approaching end of the panel. I know the name kept popping up, and now that the most powerful people arguably in the world issued his meme coin, and the richest guy also issued his supported his meme coin. So let's say we give our panelists all the power, all the community, all the social influencers attention. Can each of you pick one wildest meme concept that you have and share with the audience? And we might pick the winner and actually issue that, yeah? Let's start with Sergej.
Can I be the last? Because I have no idea.
You want to go first?
Me?
Yeah. Bill?
I don't know. It's a truck stop meme coin, I guess.
Truck. Cool. Okay. Eric?
I don't know. How do you think about that? That's not part of prepared questions.
Or a trucker. Yeah, that wasn't on the list.
I could pick one, and maybe controversial a bit. I think just look at how important it is for like how Trump able to make the coins. I'm thinking like, look at what Bitcoin did to El Salvador, a country that is on the verge of, let's say, go back to Greece back in the time, right, where they was having almost bankrupt default from that ECB bond. What if at the time they issue a Greece token? I mean, everyone go to Greece for holiday or wanted to go to Greece for holiday. Maybe they remember it. Like a Paris coin, a Greece coin, like that kind of location. They could save the country, for a short period of time.
Davos for that matter.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, very cool. Sergej?
Or you could be sued.
I forgot to mention,
by the
you have
SEC.
all the lawyers.
Or the
So I forgot to
CFTC.
say that.
Issue under Greece law.
With all the lawyers in the world, I wouldn't launch any meme coin because it's
The opposite, huh?
it feels like a Ponzi. People who come early make a lot of money, and people who come late lose all the funds. It's what we have seen with Trump. I have seen the launch on Binance. It started with $47, jumped to $75, and now it's somewhere around 30. And it means people who bought on Binance lose a lot of money actually. So and they're sitting and nothing happens now. No, it feels like Ponzi. So I and Anton, back in 2018, we was fighting against Ponzi schemes on blockchain. We did security audits, explained people why they should not invest in Ponzi schemes based on the blockchain. So because like people lose money and.
Okay, with all that, very skeptical about meme coin and for the sake of sustainable crypto growth. Okay, here this ends the panel. Thank you everyone for attending.